Today we're going to be talking about simple probability. Probability is the ratio that expresses how likely an event is to happen. Okay, so our book defines this ratio as the number of favorable outcomes over the number of possible outcomes. I like to simplify that a little bit farther and say that it is going to be our target over our total. All right, so let's look at some examples so we can work with that a little bit more. Our first example says, suppose a die is rolled. What is the probability of rolling an odd number? So we have to find two numbers to plug in here. So let's start with the bottom, the total. That's usually the easier of the two numbers to identify. So how many sides are there on a normal die? Okay. Think about how many numbers are there on there. There's 1 through 6, so there are 6 sides on any cube, which is what a normal die is. So 6 is going to go in the denominator. Okay. In our numerator, our target is the odd numbers. Okay, so we have to identify how many odd numbers are there on a die. So a normal die goes from 1 to 6, and that means that we would have numbers 1, 3, and 5 are all odd numbers that are represented on a die. So there are 3 numbers then, 1, 3, and 5, that are represented there. And 3 over 6 is the probability, or you have a 3/6 chance of rolling an odd number. However, it means more to us if we go ahead and reduce that into 1/2. So we have a 1 in 2 chance. Okay, those are both equivalent fractions, and they are equivalent ratios as well. So that would be just fine. Also, one of the reasons we do this is as we start converting these from ratios into percentages, it's much easier, based on what we've already learned, to convert 1/2 into a percentage, it's 50%, than it is to convert from 3/6. It's just the way that our brains process information, the way that we've been presented with that information in the past, makes that 1/2 mean more to us. Okay, so let's get another example. So this example says, suppose a bag contains 4 red, 3 green, 6 blue, and 2 yellow marbles. Obviously not in the picture. What is the probability a randomly chosen marble will not be yellow? So the key here is going to be this phrase at the end, will not be yellow. And they won't always highlight it, and they won't always make the word not big. You have to really be sure that you're reading carefully. And so we want to know, what are the chances that we will not get a yellow marble? Okay. So on here, again, the total is usually the easier of the two numbers to come up with. So we would add up all of these numbers. So 4 plus 3 plus 6 plus 2, that's going to give us 15. That's going to go in the denominator. And then our target is going to be everything except the yellow marbles. So we are adding up the 4, the 3, and the 6, the red, the green, and the blue marbles. Those are all the marbles that are not yellow. That's our target. And when we add those up, we get 13. Okay, so the chances of, or the probability that a randomly chosen marble will not be yellow is going to be, you have a 13 out of 15 chance. Okay, that one can't be reduced any farther, and so that is the probability. As we get a little bit farther into this, we'll talk about how to switch this into a percentage. And just for reference here, this would be approximately 87%. Approximately an 87% chance of drawing a marble that is not yellow. One final thing I want us to look at is the notation. Sometimes you're going to see in your book or in a problem where they have P, and then they have parentheses, and then they have the ratio over here. And you may have to fill in one or more of those numbers. Or they may give you this first part, the P of, and give you a target. And you have to come up with what is that probability. So let's talk about each of these parts. The P stands for probability. And remember that anytime we have something in parentheses, that's going to be the probability of, because the word of in math means multiplication. And so this is the P times, that's why you have the little parentheses. So that's the probability of getting something, and that's just the way that it's read. It's something that we don't always talk about in math class, but just like you had to learn how to read back in pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, and everybody kind of gave you the rules over and over and over again. That's what we're doing here. You will see more and more of these types of notations where you have a letter and parentheses and something else. And so you just kind of need to know that that's read as the P of, or the probability of, whatever's in the parentheses. Your target is going to be what's in the parentheses. So if you were given a question where it's the P and then they have odd in here, then based on whatever other information you're given, like if it's dealing with die, or excuse me, if it's dealing with dice or something else, depending on whether it's a normal dice or something else, like a gaming die sometimes have multiple, like more sides than a regular die, then let's talk for a moment about notation. On your homework, you're going to see something written like the left-hand side of this equation. You just need to know that the parts mean P is probability. Your target is going to be what's in parentheses. So if you're talking about a die, then they might have odd numbers here. And so if it would be the probability of finding, or of rolling, excuse me, an odd number. And you would be responsible for filling in the right-hand portion of that. If they gave you a word problem and they gave you colored marbles, like our last example, then they might have a color in parentheses here. So it might be the probability of not yellow, right? So you have to find something or find the probability that the marble is not yellow, okay, that you drew out of a bag. The right-hand side is just what we've been talking about, and so I just wanted to be sure and forewarn you that they will frequently be giving you the left-hand side, and then you just use everything we already learned. Okay, the target goes on top. You'll have to plug in a number for that, and then the total goes on bottom, and reduce if you can. And that is going to be just the way that they write that. I just wanted to be sure you know how to read it. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.